Time now is 8:50, and with us is long-time former Fox 40 News anchor Larry Sparano with some thoughts. Hey, how are you?
Yeah, Ken, my overall impression of this is there's a big difference between the era of Nixon and what's going on now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, back then, the voting public was not so bitterly divided and emotionally attached to ideology and cultural wars and all that, and the parties themselves were at least somewhat more principled in terms of at least a lip service to decorum and respectability and dignity of office. Now, you know, case in point there, Barry Goldwater, the arch conservative of his day, was the one who went to Nixon to tell him it was time to go because there were not enough votes in the Senate to support him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you contrast what Goldwater did to Lindsey Graham, you know, who's strongly, staunchly continuing to defend Trump. So, you know, a lot of the elements are not the same between the Nixon era and what's going on today.
But, I mean, what do you think what about his argument about we're already divided and there's really no political downside? I mean, actually...
I think there is a downside because, you know, that political division,
mm-hmm.
Especially as it is pumped up nightly on Fox News and on the right-wing websites, conservative websites and outlets, you know, they're pumping up Trump's base. They're enraging the other side, which just increases the overall debate in din and dissatisfaction and chaos about it.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a downside to that because if they start impeachment proceedings, this is all going to be pumped up even more. And people on both sides, I think, are just going to throw up their hands. And as we do move towards election, these other bread and butter issues will be coming to the fore. Now, what the reporter just said before us was that they're being held up by the GOP anyway, so what's the difference?
Mm-hmm.
The big difference is that as we move closer to election, the Republicans know that they're vulnerable, for instance, on health care, a main issue, and they're already beginning to go over a little bit to the other side without stating in so many words. They know some of these issues that the Democrats have been pushing for, they had better compromise on if they're going to retain any of their majorities in either house of Congress. So I think that's a phony argument that it's not going to make any difference because the GOP is holding up this stuff anyway. They're going to be holding up less and less in a different guise as we move closer to the election. That they know that health care lost in the House in the midterm elections.
But I mean,
they're not going to let that happen again.
But I think the Democrats can deal with health care at the same time. I mean, what about his point about that the Democratic base is going to be angry if the leaders do not do anything?
I don't see that yet, Ken, unless Trump's favorability ratings go to ground zero. Then it's a different story. But there's still no clear majority among the public for impeachment.
No, but there's a clear among the Democrats. I mean, 76% of Democrats think that he should.
Yeah, but I mean, as a whole, it isn't that strong. And with Nixon, there was 53% of all voters wanted to impeach him, and the favorability rating dropped to 24% before the House committee actually decided that they would bring to the floor of the House impeachment articles. And don't forget, too, what are they impeaching him for? It's still not clear. And again, as we said before, if the equivalent of the smoking gun of the Nixon era comes out, then everything changes. But until they come up with something that's very clear and egregious enough to really enrage the public, I don't think you're going to have this groundswell of support and this big freight train heading towards impeachment and conviction for Trump.
I see.
And don't forget, too, now, in Nixon, 1970, before he resigned in 1974, the charges were obstruction of justice, same now, abuse of power, same now, and contempt of Congress. All that pretty much the same now, what they're going after for. However, what was not passed was an article of impeachment for his personal finances and failure to pay taxes, which they're also trying to go after him for. So, this doesn't equate as neatly as the commentator was saying.
Well, what about What about the moral argument? I mean, the morality of it. I mean, I think in that piece, one of the congressmen was saying something about that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could always make the moral argument, but realistically in politics, right, how much weight does the moral argument have unless the rank-and-file voters of both parties, of all parties, right, of all persuasions, are really offended and really outraged that their own interests are at stake? All this highfalutin stuff about morality and ethics and all that, yeah, we know that's the way it should be, but that's not the way the real world is, and that's not the way it plays out in politics.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, sir.
And here's something else interesting now about how this may play out.
Mm-hmm.
So far, Lindsey Graham, case in point, still a staunch supporter along with other key Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the turnaround with Nixon, what happened there was Nixon's strongest defender on the Judiciary Committee at the time, the House Judiciary Committee, parallel there, was a guy named Charles Wiggins. He was a congressman from California.
Mm-hmm. And
he kept arguing that there was no specific evidence linking Nixon to a crime, similar to what the Republicans are saying today.
Mm-hmm.
However, Wiggins changed his mind following the disclosure of the so-called smoking gun
mm-hmm.
tapes of Nixon,
mm-hmm.
where it became obvious on those tapes that he was complicit in the cover-up.
Mm-hmm. And
that's when Wiggins said that he had changed his mind and he would vote for impeachment. So what I'm saying is, again, it has to be some kind of a smoking gun equivalent where, it's just too much even for his supporters to justify.
Right.
And we haven't reached that point yet. I'm not saying we won't, but that hasn't come out yet. Maybe it will.
Yeah.
But so far, that's what's lacking.
And I wonder if people feel that Mueller has sort of muddied the water a bit with his press conference and that sort of thing.
Well, actually, Mueller told Congress, it's up to you if you want to impeach.
Exactly,
he couldn't do it because of the DOJ ruling against that, which I think is proper. You should not be able to indict a sitting president. But he's saying, okay, you guys want to impeach him, go ahead. You have the power. And what's Congress doing? What are the Democrats doing? Yeah. They're still, not ready to commit, not ready to take what they consider is still a major risk.
Yeah.
So I think, if anything, Mueller is showing the hypocrisy mm-hmm. of the Democrats.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. All right, sir. Well, we'll talk tomorrow.